In this video, I'm going to show you how to use color to make a selection instead of using other selection methods that use edges of an object for the selection. So we're going to use something called color range. The color range command selects a specific color or color range within an existing selection or an entire image. To use this tool, come up to Select and Color Range. Under Select, you have all these options. You can use sampled colors, or you can use a color or tonal range. These are all the colors you can use, or the tonal ranges like highlights, midtones, and shadows. If you use any of these options here, the color or tonal range, you can't make any adjustments to the selection. But we're going to show you how this works, just in case you want to use it. So if I want to isolate a color, here's this scene with all these trees on either side of the road. Let's select reds. I have the selection option checked, which previews the selection that will result from the colors you sample in the image. So we're going to use that. And down here where it says selection preview, if you want to preview the selection in the image window, you would choose one of these. So when you select a color range up here, yes, there's no adjustment for the selection as far as how fine it could be, but you can adjust the selection preview. None will show the original image. Grayscale shows white for completely selected pixels, gray for partially selected ones, and black for unselected ones. So this one could be really useful. The others you're going to have to experiment with to see what fits for your selection. If I go black matte, shows the original image for selected pixels and black for unselected ones. So this option is supposed to be good for bright images. White matte shows the original image for selected pixels and white for unselected ones. This option is good for black images. Quick mask shows unselected areas as a overlay. So you'll have to experiment which one works best for your image. I think a lot of times you'll use none at first when you first come in to use it. So that would be your default, and then go to grayscale. So if I choose grayscale, so it's going to show white for completely selected pixels. There's a lot of red in here. I say okay, you can see the selection. So now you can see all the pixels that are selected. Say if I want to change the reds in this image, I can create a hue and saturation adjustment layer. I can change the hue of the red or the saturation. If I change the saturation, you can see how that affects the picture. Maybe it's too saturated for your taste. Now I'm going to select layer 0 again. Come up to select color range. This time we're going to select yellows. Let's say okay. And a lot of the yellows are selected. You can see that here. Now if I add another hue and saturation adjustment layer, and this time I can change the saturation of the yellows. I can also change the hue, make it more yellow. And if I group these two adjustment layers together, and there's the before and there's the after, that's an example of targeting some colors with the color range. So there will be cases where maybe you want to do that. But now let's see how we can make more finer selection adjustments with the color range. In this example, we're going to remove all of the same color, and this is the background color. This example works best if you take a photo in a studio with a solid color background. We're going to go to Select Color Range, and we're going to be on Sampled Colors and change Selection Preview to None. Sampled Colors enables you to use the eyedropper tool and pick sample colors from the image. So here is the eyedropper tool. Select that and click on the image, and you can click and drag. So if you look at the preview, you can see the preview can have black and white areas. As you're using this tool, the white areas are what is selected and the black areas are not selected. Now we can use the plus eyedropper and click in areas that we want to be added to our selection. Before we go any further, we want to remove the background color. So when we click invert, now you can see that our subject is selected and the background is not. In order to see that better, we can change our selection preview to grayscale. And in this case, we still have our plus eyedropper, and we're clicking in areas that we want to exclude from the selection. So up in here, top, and areas here where we're going to remove that background color. So again, we inverted it because we want to keep our subject intact. We want that black background, what's there, to be what is removed. And you can click in areas where you think it may need to be refined. sometimes you may need to change this fuzziness control. So what the fuzziness is going to do, you can adjust the range of colors selected by using the fuzziness slider or by entering a value. The fuzziness setting controls how wide a range of colors is in the selection, and it increases or decreases the amount of partially selected pixels. At the start, most times you want to keep it low, and then you're going to need to increase it depending on the image. So to turn this into a selection, say OK. Now I'm going to create a layer mask, and that removed the background. Now this has done a pretty good job, but you still may need to refine it a little bit. What you can do is you could add a solid color adjustment layer under everything. I'm going to make it black and move it down here underneath the image, and it actually looks fairly good. There is a little bit of hair out here that might be the other color. If you want, you could refine it a little bit. I'm on the subject thumbnail, and I have the lasso tool selected so that I can see select and mask. I'm just going to smooth, feather, add a little bit of contrast just slightly, and then I'm going to shift the edge just a little bit. Usually when there's not a lot of additional hair strands, I'll use just the global refinements, and I'll probably check decontaminated colors, and then I'll output this to a new layer with layer mask. And usually when I do something like this, I will change this background to another color just to see how it looks. It did a pretty good job removing that solid color. I see a little bit of the background color in her top. So what I'm going to do is add a hue and saturation adjustment at the very top. I'm going to sample right here, and it's a magenta, and I'm going to take that saturation down. So that helped with any additional fringing. So that's another use of the color range tool. Keep in mind there's a lot of different selection methods. This is just one more tool in your Photoshop toolbox. There will be occasions that you go to this method. In this example, we want to change the color of the flowers that are behind the model only. Since they're red, when we're making selections of the flowers, it may also include her dress, her skin tone, lips, any red. So in this scenario, we have an extra step. We need to exclude the model from the selection. First, I am going to make my selection under Select, Color Range. Make sure your invert is not checked right now. Going to click once to get one of my colors, then add my plus eyedropper, and just click around and get my colors of my flowers, get them all selected. And you can really see that a lot is getting selected. Even the subject's dress, her skin tones, way too much. If you change to white matte, that's showing you all the colors that are selected. Way more than we wanted. We just want the red flowers. So if we say OK, you can see everything that's selected. I'm going to say Command D to deselect everything. Here's the extra step. We need to exclude our subject from the selection. So I'm going to choose, for instance, the quick selection tool. I can use that, or I can use select subject, made a selection of the model. I'm going to say select inverse. So the flowers are not selected, but the subject is. So now when I go back into select color range and I'm in white matte, you can see where all the flowers behind the subject are indeed red, and the subject is excluded. And now we can say, okay, this is our selection. We'll add an adjustment layer, a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and I'm changing the hue. See, I'm changing them to yellow flowers, and it's not touching the subject. It's not touching her dress. So that's the catch here, where you have an object or a subject, a model like this that is wearing a similar color that is being selected, or even when it conflicts with skin tone. This is how you would take care of it. You would make a selection of the subject and invert it. There's even areas like this one flower right here where there's a little bit of red in it. You can use your brush and you can select the hue and saturation layer mask and paint with white in that area, and see now it's yellow. Any other little areas that you see that, you can touch it up. Comment below on which of these uses of color range would be more useful to you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for content on Photoshop. Remember, it's never too late to learn. Thanks for watching.